Johnson, and this is focused on Liberia. Hit it! From Cape Mount to Cape Palmer, mountain back to Atlantic Ocean, Obomi Hills to Boakai, Turay, you can't elevate and promote. Talk about home affairs, hey, in diaspora, current affairs, hey, reliable information, history, talking about culture, hey, politics, education, entertainment, business, sports, advertisement, articulation. Focus on Liberia. Focus on Liberia. Focus on Liberia. From Monday to Sunday.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Focus on Liberia. This is your show, Hello Pastor, where we discuss things about religion right here on Focus on Liberia. My name is Dennis Jai, and we are broadcasting from Atlanta, Georgia. In tonight's edition, we're going to be discussing the roles, the rights, and the responsibilities of women in Islam. If you like, the rights, the roles, and the responsibility of women according to the Quran in Islamic societies. How are women treated? How should they be treated? How far is it from what the Quran says from what is actually being practiced? We're going to be discussing that. I have with me Imam Jeneka Mohammed Turay, who is our guest tonight. Mr. Imam Turay, welcome to the show. Imam, you are muted.
I said, thank you very much. It's always a pleasure being with you and sharing our thoughts about our faith.
Thank you. That's Imam Jeneka Mohammed Dukuly, who's joining us from Canada. Let me also welcome Mr. Abu Boakai Dukuly. He's also joining us from Canada. Mr. Dukuly is a panelist here on Focus on Liberia. Today, he's appearing in a different category. We're talking the roles and rights and responsibilities of women in Islam. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, Dennis. It's a pleasure to be here.
And let me also indicate that although he's not an imam, but he's from the Al-Azhar University in Cairo, Egypt. That's where he studied. The university many regard as the Harvard when it comes to Islamic studies. So, Prof. Dukuly, welcome.
Thank you, Dennis.
Well, we also going to be joined. We're going to be joined by Fatima B. Sirleaf. Fatima will be joining us very shortly. She's running late. Yesterday, when we advertised the show, many criticized us, say, well, where's the female? So Fatima has graciously accepted to be here and contribute to the discussion. We want to welcome all our viewers from across the globe. This is Focus on Liberia, where we educate, we elevate, and promote all things Liberia. Let me start with we've had Imam Turay for some time now discussing these topics. Today we decided to add Mr. Dukuly and Sister Fatima to the discussion so as to get their perspective. So I want us to go around the room now, or let's start with Mr. Boakai Dukuly. the importance of this discussion tonight, and why is it important that our guests tune in and share the show.
Thank you, Dennis. And it's really a pleasure to be here. And I'm also honored to be on this panel today with Brother Jeneka Mohammed Turay to share our views, and particularly talking about women in Islam. This is a subject, it's a topic that is usually discussed, but in most cases, most of the discussions usually focus on the picture painted in the Western media in particular, and in most cases, um, the focus is usually on denigrating women, and women are presented as if they are victims of the religion, etc. So I hope I can contribute to the discussion today to set some of the records straight and to educate our listeners.
Thank you, Imam Ture. This is there are a lot of controversial topics in Islam, just like in Christianity and other religions. The last time we had a broad brush going through this. Today we decided to focus on the one that has to do with women, their role and responsibilities in societies. Your thoughts as to why this is necessary?
Thank you very much once more. The topic under discussion, the rights and responsibilities of women, is very much essential because, as the brother just made mention, it's been looked at as one of the most dangerous and controversial issues, even within the Islamic community and yet the entire world, the Muslim community and the non-Muslim community. People looked at Muslim women to be subordinated, to be enslaved, to be ill-treated. To some extent, some Muslim women who probably have not schooled in the faith and have traveled into the Western world are beginning to consider the reality that indeed what the Westerners are saying is trying to be somewhere, somehow a truth, which is not the case. So this topic today is very essential, it's very important and highly educated.
Thank you. And also, let me ask you, is there different groups, or like in Christian denomination, are there different sects in Islam who, treat women differently or believe the Quran is saying this about women compared to other? Or is it a general view that, hey, this is how women, or these are the roles and responsibility of women in the Quran? Or is it based on, and I'll give you an example. A few days ago at the Methodist Church, their conference, they are a group that believe that women, you can ordain people with same-sex relationship. And the other group in Liberia and other parts of Africa said, no, we can't be part of this anymore if you would have same-sex relationship. So in Islam, is it that there are certain people or certain group or certain sects that believe certain way a woman should behave and others don't believe that way? Is it like that?
Unfortunately, no, Mr. Jah. In Islam, whenever we are discussing anything that has to do with the faith, we deal directly with the source of the faith, which is the Quran and the Sunnah. So when it comes to the Quran, there's no sect that has any different explanation about the topic under discussion. We all think and experience and believe the same. The Quran taught to us.
Good. Dukuly,
There's no
you
difference.
have any?
There may be some
Yeah,
differences in some other things with different sect, but with this, no, not to my knowledge.
yeah, I think the short answer is no. But then to qualify that no, as the brother said, the basis of any discussion or interpretation originates from the Holy Quran and complemented by the Hadith and the saying and actions of Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessing be upon him. So, in that sense, no. But sometimes there are certain groups who are rigid in terms of the interpretation of certain verse, or they are very rigid in their interpretation of certain hadiths or certain prophetic traditions that pertains to certain subject.
Good. Thank you. Good. Also, before we even start, I just want to lay the premise here. Also, is it that how is this in practice? I know not all of us will do the will of God, whatever the Bible or the Quran say, but how is it being practiced? Are people actually on the average practicing the treatment of women as per the Quran?
Then I would say no, and and this is probably one of the areas where controversy begin to pop up. So our traditions and our customs supposed to reflect the actual teaching of the religion as has been prescribed to us in the Quran and the Hadith. So the teaching of the religion is women and men are equal in terms of the way they are looked at in their spirituality and in their role. So the Quranic verses that speak about women, we don't talk about women in the sense of when we put it in the context of equality. The Quran speaks of women where women are complementary. In other words, God created everything in this universe in pairs. And so men are also created to complement women, just like women are created to complement men. Now, with that said, unfortunately, we see it over and over again that our tradition and our way of doing things does not accurately reflect this complementarity that I just talked about right now. So, and I'll give you a very simple example. I mean, broadly speaking, when you talk about polygamy in Islam, the way polygamy is practiced in my universe or where I come from in Liberia is far from what I saw practiced in other places. In other words, this polygamy thing here is prevalent only in the African continent, as far as I know, and based on my own research that I've done. So that's one. The other thing is the way we view our women in our culture, because our culture is inherently male dominant, and that male dominance seep into our religion, seep into everything that we do. So yes, it's not being practiced the way it should be.
Thank you. Let me welcome Fatima Bendu Sirleaf. Fatima, welcome to the show. Thanks for coming.
Thank you very much for having me.
Let me say, Fatima was gracious enough on short notice to join us because I was being beaten up. They say, how can you discuss this topic without a woman being on the panel? And so I ran to her for help, and she graciously accepted. This is our second time on Focus on Liberia. So Fatima, thank you. So
you're welcome. Thank you.
Let me get your opening on the subject matter that we are discussing tonight. The role and responsibility of women. What are your thoughts? Why do you think this topic is very important for us to discuss it?
It's a topic that's very near and dear to my heart as a woman and as a woman in Islam. In the 21st century, the Muslim woman she's just not the hijabi. Like, I normally don't wear hijab on a normal basis on everyday basis. I usually wear on Fridays and in the month of Ramadan, although it's an obligation. But we are more than our hijabs. We are women who bring a lot to the table. We're supportive of our husbands, our spouses. We're educated and educators. We are mothers. We are daughters, and we do bring a lot to the table. I'm grateful that you guys are taking on this subject because a lot of Muslim women just think that basically to wear the hijab is all of it. Is not. In Islam, Allah says in the Holy Quran, from the cradle to the grave, knowledge needs to be always. Excuse me?
Go ahead, Dukuly. Because it named a Boakai.
Knowledge is acquired from the cradle to the grave. So as Muslim women, most of us, a lot of people just recite Quran. They don't understand the meanings of Quran, and they don't understand the duties of the woman. Islam is the only religion where a woman is so powerful that God created a whole surah just for the woman, Surah to Maryam. So I'm super excited that you're discussing this and to be a part of it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. The last time Fatima was here, we were discussing Islamic holidays in Liberia, and that was a very beautiful and timely topic. We will, and as time goes by, Dukuly, what's going on with you? All right. So let me give the Imam a chance now. We have the Imam here, and I want all of us, this is very conversational. And even any of you have any question for the Imam, you can also ask, and we can just discuss. So, Imam Turay, let's start by you giving us a little short presentation on this, the roles, the rights, and responsibility of women in Islam. If you can take like 3 minutes, just to give us a broader an overview.
All right. Thank you once more, Mr. Jah. To begin with, we say, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله كما هو أهله والصلاة والسلام على من لا نبي بعده حبيبنا والطبيب نفوسنا محمد بن عبد الله وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين وأصحابه المنتجبين ومن تسنن بسنته إلى قيام الساعة. In the name of Allah, the most gracious, the most merciful, all praise is due to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There is no deity worthy of worship except Allah. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to bestow his peace, blessings, and mercy on all of his prophets, especially so the seed of the Prophet Muhammad, his household, and all those who trust the path of guidance at the day of judgment. The topic under discussion, roles and responsibility of women in Islam, is very, very much important. We cannot overemphasize. As I mentioned from the beginning, this topic, even within the Islamic community, is a problem. There are various misconceptions, misunderstanding, and misbelief about women in Islam. And clearly saying, to be on the record, of all of the religions, of all of the 124,000 prophets and messengers that were sent to mankind for guidance, Islam and the book, the Holy Quran, gave respect, honor, and everything you think of positively to women. Unfortunately, we are here to see some of these things being manifested and being actually practicalized and applied to women. So the topic is very important. And to do a little justice because of time to the topic, I have decided to start my deliberation from 3 or 4 perspectives, probably to see how best it can go. To discuss the roles and responsibility and duties of women in Islam, we need to first and foremost look at the spiritual aspect of it. 2, the economic aspect. 3, the social aspect. And 4, the political and legal aspects. 1, to start with the spiritual aspect, we look at the foundation of spiritual and human equity. If you look into the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told us Surah 4, verse 1 to 4. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, Ya ayyuhal ladhina amanu ittaqullaha alladhi khalaqakum min nafsin wahida wa khalaqa minha zawjaha wa batha minhuma rijalan kathiran wa nisaa. O you who believe, fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, fear your Rabb, fear your Creator, your Lord, the one who created you from one single soul, which is Adam, and created from its pair, which is Eve, Hawa, and from the both of them filled the earth, humankind, male and female. So fear him. If you look at that aspect of the Quran in Surah 4, 1 to 4, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us that our soul spiritually is one. And what is that soul? Adam and Eve. Spiritually, we are all the same. Spiritually, we are all considered in the sight of Allah on one another to be equal. And if you will briefly switch to the hadith of the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, "An-nasu sawasina asnan al-musht." Mankind, not only Muslim or non-Muslim, mankind, we are equal in the eyes of the Lord like the teeth of the comb. Whether you are a male or you are a female, we are all equal in the sight of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because we are one spiritual nature. And if you look into the Quran further, in Surah 32, verse 9, you will come to understand that both the male and female receive divine breath. Allah says in Surah 32, verse 9, He says, ثُمَّ صَوَّرَكُمْ وَنَفَخَ فِيهِ مِنْ رُوحِهِ وَجَعَلَ لَكُمْ السَّمْعَ وَالْأَبْصَارَ وَالْأَفْئِدَةَ قَلِيلًا مَا تَذَكَّرُونَ. Meaning he was explaining the stages of creation after he formed mankind, human man, male and female. He said, I breathed into it my spirit, and I gave it sight, hearing, and heart. But amongst men, many of you will not reflect on that. So that tells us that we have one under the umbrella of one spiritual nature. Then we digress a little bit, comparing the equity that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala invested with human dignity. One, we are one who came from one spiritual source. Two, we are one spiritual nature and who have the same divine birth. Then we have the equity invested with human dignity. In that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talked about it in Surah 17, verse 70. He says, He had honored the entire mankind. It was not specific to men or to the Islamic community. He said, وَلَقَدْ كَرَمْنَا بَنِي آدَمَ. I have honored the children of Adam. وَحْمَلْنَاهُمْ فِي الْبَرِّ وَالْبَحْرِ. I made them to sail on earth and on the sea, whether it is a ship, it's a submarine, you are in a car, you move on the feet, and so on and so forth. وَرَزَقْنَاهُمْ, and I gave them a provision مِنَ الطَّيِّبَاتِ, amongst the good things. وَفَضَّلْنَاهُمْ عَلَى كَثِيرٍ مِمَّا خَلَقْنَا تَفْضِيلًا. And we gave them superiority, a preference amongst many of our creation, a perfect and thorough preferment. Meaning, male and female alike are honored by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and are given knowledge, and are preferred and honored by God. So in that, there is no distinction that you will find between men and women. In that side, we are all equal. Okay. Then the fifth one I will come to will be in the same Quran, honor that. In Surah 4, verse 124, Allah did not say in the Quran that if a man does one good deed, he will get 10 times the pay or reward. And if a woman does the same good virtue, she will get like 8 or 7. No. Whatever that we do in Islam, be it spiritual, physical, educational, whatsoever that we please Allah, because that is our objective, we all get the same reward equally. So when it comes to our spiritual reward, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave us same pay. Allah says in Surah 4, 124, وَمَنْ يَعْمَلْ مِنَ الصَّالِحَاتِ مِنْ ذَكَرٍ أَوْ أُنْثَى. Anyone who does a good virtue, be it a male or a female, وَهُوَ مُؤْمِنٌ, and he or she is a believer, فَأُولَٰئِكَ يَدْخُلُونَ الْجَنَّةِ. Those are the people that will enter paradise. So one of the criteria of going to paradise to have faith, whether you're a male or female, you have to do what? Good virtues. Then say women are just supposed to be in the kitchen, you the men go into the mosques and pray or involve yourself in the spirituality, and women will be left alone. Like sometimes we see into our culture. So we the men will pray for you. That's not the case. So in that, we are also equal in the sight of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, we look at all of these equities or equality, if I may say. What is the criteria for superiority? There is a superiority in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in both the Quran and in both the Hadith. What Allah is looking at, Allah says in Surah 49:13, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, inna khalaqnakum min dhakarin wa unsa, wa ja'alnakum ash-shu'uban wa kaba'ira lita'arafu. O humankind, I created you male and female, and I made you tribe and nation so that you may know one another. And in continuation, they say, Inna akramakum indallahi atqakum. So this is what that divides us, the male and female. If the female does it better, they will be in the sight of Allah better than us, and vice versa. What is the criteria for that superiority? Allah says in the Quran, the most honored, the most valuable, the best amongst you, between you, the male and female, is the one who fear Allah. So that fear, that piety, that faith for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if the woman has it more than the man, she is better, far better than you in the sight of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then we go to the second aspect, if the time we permit me, the economic aspect.
Yeah, let's use 30 seconds for that. Or 1 minute.
Wow. In Islam, women have financial security. And this is one of the enjoyable part. And sometimes our culture have covered that. This financial security woman has, in the first and foremost, woman has the right to go to school, be educated in whatsoever field. She has the right to work, except one, with the consent of the husband. 3, a woman has a right to own property, real estates, cars, houses.
Say that again. You said a woman can get education.
Woman has the right to work, go to school. If she's married, she has to seek the consent of the husband.
Before she go to work or go to school?
Of course.
Okay.
She has the right to own property, real estate, whatsoever you think of. And all of these property, whether before marriage or within marriage, belongs to her. The husband has nothing to do with it. The husband has no right over it. So that financial security, the woman is supposed to have it. And upon all of that, it is the responsibility of the man to care for all of the affairs of the woman. Excuse me. Despite of financial security, she has right to employment, especially in fields that are more needed. A teaching, as Fatima may mention, a woman, Islamic woman or Muslim, has a right to earn whatever degree, be it in the nursing, the medical field. She has right to teach. She can be a judge, and so on and so forth.
In the
so
military?
In those cases, of course, but with the what? Consent of the husband, if she is married. I remember on one instance, during the time of the second Caliph Umar time, she gave authority to a lady. And that lady was called Shifa Ibn Abdullah. She gave her authority over men and women in the field of commerce, into the marketplace.
Mm-hmm.
And if we were to compare the position that Umar gave her, it can be compared, she was a supervisor at the marketplace. Today, if we can compare it, she could be a director of a consumer department. If women were not having right to engage into trade and commerce or businesses, immediately after the Prophet, those are the ones who people who really took over leadership.
Thank you.
Why would he be doing that if it was not our Islam? So, of course, employment, yes, woman can be deployed and she has that financial security from the economic standpoint. Thank you very much.
Thank you. That's a fine summary. And I want to get Fatima's perspective on the idea of consent. And do men also need the consent of their wives to do these things, or is only the woman who needs that consent? How is that fair?
So in Islam, the man is considered the head of the household. Okay. So, but men and women get married, and when they get married, there should be consent. You know, there should be a relationship where you and your wife become one in the worship of Allah. And fairness is supposed to be maintained in that relationship. In Islam, Allah says that education is from the cradle to the grave. So women and men are, allowed to expand their knowledge in any aspect, of their lives, in any career they choose or desire. And they are supposed to get education as far as they can go. The reason why they always say that a woman is supposed to ask the consent of her husband to do something because he is the head of the household. And then, if you guys have children as well, you understand that most times in any marriage, the woman is, she caters to the children. So you will have to have the consent of your husband because children need to be provided for. And I was just reading one of the comments and I heard one of the people say that women get less inheritance in Islam, which is not true. Women, like I was telling you, if a woman, one thing the Imam said that I was studying Islamic school is that when a woman inherits property from her family, her parents, if she wants to share with her husband, she can. If she does not want to share with her husband, it is her property. And he is supposed to provide and protect and cater to her in Islam. So Islam is one of the religion that, I'm not talking about the tradition, the African tradition that it mixed with Islam. In actual Islam, because you have to understand something. The Quran is the only book from its inception till today has never changed. We only worship in Arabic because we do not want to distort the meanings of the Quran. The Quran is the only book that have never changed. Surah Al-Fatiha from the day it was handed down till today is the same Surah Al-Fatiha. Surah Al-Baqarah from the day it was handed down today is the same surah. So that's the only difference in Islam. We worship in Arabic because we don't want to distort the language, but women have so many rights in Islam. I'm a first generation divorcee in my family. I was the first to actually say that, me and my husband were not compatible, and I was able to divorce him. In Islam too, divorce is allowed. If you're not happy with your spouse and they try every intervention to try to secure the marriage. But in the end, if it doesn't work, Allah knows you have to go your separate way with respect. They want you to also give your wife her fair share of everything, even if she owns her own. So Islam protects a woman. It really does. But people just don't understand. It mix it with culture and traditions and then try to, say the religion is this, that, and the third. But, I hope people will get to
I heard most of you say the African tradition. I think it's mainly the Arabic tradition that does that the
not
African try to
necessarily.
borrow.
Not necessarily. Let me tell you, everybody, because Islam is not just a religion, it's a complete way of life.
Right.
So we have our like Va people. Okay, my mom's side of the family is Va. So the Va people, they have their tradition, their culture, and they try to mend it with the Islamic life. The Madingo people too, they have their traditional Madingo way of acting, and they try to blend it in with Islam. So they might not necessarily be practicing Islam when they're saying, oh, you say it's only the Arabic way. No, it's not the Arabic way. It's our common traditions and culture that we bring along from different aspects. In Burkina Faso too, in Sierra Leone, in Nigeria, Boko Haram is not a practice of Islam. Islam say if you destroy the life of one person in a humanity, you have destroyed all of humanity. So when people are doing things and then bring Islam into it, it is really not Islam. It's their way of life, their traditions, and the culture, and they bring it into the mainstream of Islam and they try to say Islam, but it's really not.
Thank you. Let's talk about leadership, women in leadership, and let me start with you, Mr. Dukuly. Women in leadership, are women, can they aspire to any leadership role, president, vice president? And is it because sometimes we see that, like the president of Tanzania now is a Muslim, right? Is it because of the society? Because in other Islamic culture, that would not happen. So let's talk about leadership in Islam for women. On mute, please.
Thank you, Dennis. Actually, this idea of women leadership is something that is encouraged in Islam, and there's no prohibition whatsoever. Now, there are those who always make a reference to one single hadith that says a nation that is headed by women is doomed. It's a doomed nation. I mean, and that particular hadith has been contested because one of the rules that governs hadith narration is extremely rigid. In other words, the chain of narration has to be as accurate and proper before it can be considered as authentic. And there is a questionable character in the chain of narration, that hadith will not be deemed to be a proper hadith. So there's a lot of controversy there, where people question the hadith, and some people say the context of the hadith and the purpose of the hadith was meant for a particular context for a particular time. With that said, Dennis, women are like men in everything. And I mean everything. So if you go back to a hadith that says to us that seeking knowledge is an obligation for both men and women. Now, if seeking knowledge is an obligation, it's only logical to assume that when you seek that knowledge needs to be impacted on people.
Mhm.
And in doing so, you have to be in a position where you can impact it, either as a teacher, either as I don't know, whatever it is that your field of study is. So yes, women are encouraged. Women can be imams. Women can be presidents. Women can be anything. You see, one of the reasons that has clouded this whole notion of women leadership is when you look at the nation of Saudi Arabia, that's supposed to be the place of the birth of Islam. Women were stripped of their basic human rights. And people did not distinguish that politics from the religion simply because Saudi was an Islamic nation. Now, Kuwait, Dubai, they are the same place, they are the same Muslim, but women are driving there. Women are in position of power there. Women are, as a matter of fact, the American University of Ajami, the president is a woman in Dubai, in the United Arab Republic. So then these are things that usually has to do with political Islam, where people drag their politics into the religion to the point where to the unsuspecting participant or observer, they cannot distinguish the politics from the religion. So women can be leaders in any field, in any subject. And in the past, like a brother was just making mention of the second Caliph, who is Umar bin Khattab. When she was given this role was applicable to everybody who was in our marketplace, men or women. So, sometimes it's just difficult for us to distinguish our culture and our tradition from the religion. And like I said, for people who are not well versed in the religion,
Right.
and I can't blame them, because what they see people practice is what they assume to be part of the religion.
But Mr. Dukuly, whose fault is that? Because sometimes we see the people use the Quran to say, "Hey, this is what God says," right?
Yes, yeah, but then it's that's almost every religion does that.
Okay.
And I mean every religion. We remember the Brent Davidian, and we remember James Jones. All these people, the horrendous thing they did, they said it was from the Bible. The Bible, I mean, it's not limited to any particular religion.
But when you institutionalize it as a country, like you were talking about Saudi Arabia, then people start saying, "Oh, okay."
Yeah.
Let me go to the Imam. Let me go to the Imam. Are there references in the Bible, in the Quran, that tell us that women can be this or women shouldn't be this? For instance, I think the last time we talked, you said a woman cannot be an imam. Is there any reference in the Quran that say a woman can be whatever they want when it comes to job, when it comes to leadership? What are the references?
To be honest, if you check in the entire Quran, the 114 chapters, there's no one ayah or verse that will tell you that a woman cannot be a judge or a minister or a director or X, Y, and Z. It's not there. As we all may mention, thank God that you. I'm coming. I will come to that as well. Thank God that Mr. Dukuly brought it out. Where we consider, and it's a reality, the creator of Islam is Saudi Arabia, Mecca. But before Islam, the Arab had a culture. That culture, there was no respect for women. they considered a woman to be cursed to them. Even if someone's wife gave birth to a woman, the Quran may mention all of that. The first injunction that came to debunk that attitude, the Quran says, وَإِذَا الْمَوْءُودَةُ سُئِلَتْ بِأَيِّ ذَنْبٍ قُتِلَتْ, that those that were bearing their girls' children for the fear of being ashamed into the community or the country of having a female child, because to them they were not useful in battle and wars, will be asked on the day of judgment. For what reason were you buried alive? Why? So that was a culture of the Arabs. Woman was nothing to them. They were not valued. So it is Islam that came to break that barrier. Unfortunately, even with the existence of Islam, we still see these things being practiced in Saudi and some part of the world. I'm from Grand Cape County, a very proud man, though I have that Madigo background. Islam was introduced into West Africa, specifically in our country, Liberia, by the Mandingos. So the culture of the Mandingo, based on our, I don't want to say lack of knowledge, has been seen, or the Vai, or the Mende, or the Pele, today in Liberia, we see all of these things to be part of the religion. Unfortunately, it's far. You remember we did the discussion I told you, it's better to know the religion called Islam before you know Muslim. Sometimes you will see a Muslim doing certain thing and you think this man is a Muslim, whatever he does is Islam. No, unfortunately. Now, back to your question. Can a woman be an imam in Islam? As I told you, it's not written in the Quran that yes or no, it's not there. But there are some discussions amongst the Islamic clerics, the legists, the Islamic lawyers, those who have command, those who give fatwa. The reason why Muslim women are not to be elected, or they can call them imams, they have social reason, they have physical reason, and so on and so forth. One, an imam comes with a very deep responsibility. It's not only to lead prayers, right?
Fatima, you know I'm coming to you on
physical things to do. You have physical things to do. Leadership, there's physical things to do. And women in Islam, the right are given to women that we're supposed to guide them. We have to pamper them. We have to look after them. We should bear every burden for them. So if one is a leader, there are certain things that they will have to go through. Politically, they have to have meetings with men in the night, in the cover of darkness, for example. They will have to go far and near to have some negotiation. And looking at the rights that are given to them in Islam, they are not supposed to go through this. But it is not written down that they can be. One, if the person is qualified,
right,
well educated, modest, and have good representation to themselves and the religion of Islam, of course, they can be Islamic leaders. So the debate as to whether a woman can be an imam, some say yes, some say no. But let me take my feet on top of that. Some say a woman cannot be imam to lead men in salat. And I told you the consequences, even though you consider it to be a joke that day. You assume a lady, a very huge, beautiful lady is standing before you with that melodious voice, standing before men and reciting. You will not be focused in prayer. To be very honest, you will not be focused. Never. Your mind, your heart will all be on that lady. So to cut that, they say, no, he can lead us in prayer. Because when we make the takbirat ihram, Allahu Akbar, it's supposed to cut off from every worldly thing. Our focus is supposed to be onto the person we're speaking to, God.
Yeah.
Right?
Thank you.
And some saying yes, and a woman can lead prayer among social women. And there was an instance that a woman led salat amongst women, children. And amongst the children, there were male. But that imam aspect is a very big debate amongst even the scholars. Some say completely forbidden. Some say no, it is not forbidden, but because of X, Y, and Z reason, it's not supposed to happen. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And you know, Fatima, you know I was coming to you because the idea that we men, because we lack, because I'm a man, because we can't control ourselves. So someone else supposed to suffer for that. I don't agree with that. But let me hear your thought.
Um, for me, I'm an open-minded individual, and I'm a feminist to an extent, but I'm not an extreme feminist. So let me just tell you, I believe that there are some reasons why I actually considered that a woman would not do well as an imam. For the men, if the prayer is supposed to be led 30 days, we women, we have our menstrual cycle. So in those days that we are having our menstrual cycle, then who will be there to lead the prayer? Because in Islam, when you have your menstrual cycle, you do not touch the Holy Quran, you can lead, you can pray. So
Why?
in those,
Why?
we are considered unclean.
That
Imam, is that not true?
That is the rule.
The man is just asking, it's in the Bible.
No, I'm just
It's not a
saying,
strange thing.
we are
It's in the Bible.
considered unclean when we are having our menstrual cycle. We cannot touch the Holy Quran. We can recite the Holy Quran. We cannot touch the book. We cannot pray. So on those days, and in fact, once you finish, you don't go back and recover the prayer. You just move forward. So Allah has actually permitted the women on those days, to not pray, not fast. Even in the month of Ramadan, if you're fasting and you get your period, you stop that day, you stop fasting until the days that you're clean and you go back to pray. So after the month of Ramadan, you have to go back and recover those days. So for those reasons, I think also, and I agree with the Imam, I feel also, I honestly prefer that we women pray by ourselves, because there are some things, people try to think that, if you're modest, then that you're being imprisoned, and I came to America, I told my husband I wanted to get education. And he was like, oh, I want to go first. I said, well, we both going to go then, because I want to get an education too. And my father always used to tell me he wanted me to be one of the first women in the family to go to school and be better than him. So I wanted to acquire education, and I did. And he allowed me. He went to John Jay. I went to Seton Hall University, and we both went our ways. We obtained our degrees. He went to Liberia, and I stayed. So I'm just saying that women can do a lot of things. It does not mean that because you're a Muslim woman, you submit yourself to the will of Allah. I'm telling you something. If you become a Muslim and you become a practicing Muslim, what it does to you, it actually directs your entire being. You are afraid to sin against your fellow man, because we believe in Islam that anything you do, I do to God, I can come with sincerity, pray and worship him, and he will forgive us. But the sin between you and your fellow man is the one. We don't want to backbite. We don't want to hurt anybody else. We don't want to do anything to damage people. So for people to say, oh, because a man is leading prayer, that means that women are less human beings. I don't agree with it. I just feel that we get our period.
That's what the tempting part, that if this guy is going to see a woman be tempted, but women too can see men be tempted, right? So
that's the reason. That's the reason why we divide them. Women are separate, the men are separate, and the worship goes on well. We see them on the videos, we see them, but in the same room, I believe that God in his wisdom did all of these things that we are practicing today for the betterment of humankind. I'm educated, but I prefer it that way, even me, till this day. Because I feel like a woman is...
The Quran didn't say that, though. It's our own. We are putting that burden, and I think that's true.
No, the Quran did say that when a woman is in her menstrual cycle, you cannot pray. So I'm saying, if a woman is the chief imam of this month, so every Monday she go and search for another imam to come and cover for the days that she got her period or she's not okay. That's what I'm saying. I mean, a woman can be whatever she wants to be in Islam, but there are just some duties that I think we should leave with our brothers to do, honestly. So that's how I see it. But I don't any other person, I will fight a man battle to battle, toe to toe, for us to go against that, because I believe that Allah has not drawn a demarcation like he did in the oceans. He said in Surah Al-Rahman, there is a demarcation in the ocean that we cannot transgress. So in any other thing, he said a woman is supposed to get her education from the cradle to the grave. And so I will fight for any of that. But at the imam part, I think I will just put it on the side.
Mr. Dukuly, will you be distracted because you see a woman in the mass who's praying, and then You can even though you Iman, you eating all chicken. Now, woman praying. So why, because I think the men are putting too much burden on the woman. If you believe that the woman is going to distract you, close your eyes or you tie your face.
Dennis, I think people are usually they sensationalize these things as if it's a life and death situation. It's not. Look, women can lead prayers when they are all women, with no question, with nothing there. And Allah, who created us, knows us better than ourselves. So if He says, for the fear of temptation, I would rather not have woman. And by the way, this is not unique to Islam.
No, but Allah didn't say that though. That for that temptation, the woman should not be.
No. I'm just saying for the reason being temptation. If that is the reason, I'm saying Allah knows best. And again, this whole idea is not unique to Islam. It's not unique to only Islam where women are not imams. No, in Catholicism, I don't know how many women are there as priests or as whatever it is that is supposed to be in a leadership role. So this is not unique to Islam. And what Islam says is women can lead prayers when the congregants are women. Now,
No, but Dukuly, not to cut you off, even in Judaism, I've not seen a woman, what is
Rabbi.
I've not seen that
yeah,
ever.
and even that, I'm not saying it's not there, but if it's there, it's not. You're not going to find them as many as there are men rabbis. So, and if that is the case, that must be a reason. I mean, for Islam, I think we always forget the fact that the role of women in Islam and the way that role is evaluated, I think is mostly undervalued and under evaluated simply because we see it in the context of Western interpretation of the religion and Western media, and enforced by our own cultural, presentations, and in most cases our own ignorance. Look, my mother is a Gola woman, and when I go to my mother's village and I see Muslims there, the way I see them practicing the religion is quite different from what what I saw in Egypt or what I know in other places, and they are Muslims.
Yeah. So let's talk about the family. Let's talk about marriage. Let's talk about
Yeah. So with that said, if you really compare the role and rights and responsibility of women in Islam, I think Islam will come up as superior in terms of women's rights, in terms of what women can do and women cannot do. Just to cite one example, Brother Mohammed mentioned something here, and I think it's very crucial. If you marry a woman, and this woman is a millionaire, you have zero entitlement to that million that she has. You are still responsible of taking care of that woman in every aspect. So the woman can choose to spend on the house. The woman can choose to spend on her husband. That's just one right that is not found in any other religion where people. So I'm just using it as one example, and the other example is you talk about marriage. This is something that is not spoken about enough. A woman in Islam has the right to say to her husband, as a condition of marriage, if you ever think of marrying a second wife to me, that will be the end of our relationship. Women have that right to say that, to condition a marriage on that. That's one. The other thing is, polygamy in Islam, at least, is badly interpreted in many cultures. And that's why I was making mention earlier that polygamy, at least from my experience, I've been fortunate to have been in many Islamic countries that are not African countries. I found that polygamy is extremely prevalent only in Africa. I lived in Egypt for 10 years. I know only two individuals who were married to two wives in my 10 years. I had a professor who went to school in Malaysia. He told me the same thing. I was in Malaysia for 17 years. I don't know anybody in Malaysia who had more than two wives or more than one wife. etc. So the idea is the way we African Muslims interpret the verse that speak about polygamy and the way it should actually be practiced. The Arabs are the wealthiest Muslims you can imagine. Polygamy is not, it's not prevalent, it's not common in Saudi Arabia or Dubai or whatever you want to call them. It's not. There must be a reason for that. So with that said, you know, religion is one of the things that people get extremely defensive and probably not willing to take corrections, even if you convince them beyond reasonable doubts. So, you know, for the sake of peace, you always want to keep your peace and not sabotage other people's belief. But when it comes to the scripture, the way the scripture is interpreted, people interpret it. And one last point I want to make. It says in the Quran that in ad-dina in the law al-Islam, the only religion to God is Islam. People say it's Islam. I don't interpret that verse to mean Islam. I interpret it to mean submission to Allah, whatever that means. So people will argue that no, they are referring to the religion of Islam. Well, what if somebody says it's referring to submission to God, which is something applicable to all religion? I mean monotheistic religions, you know. So these are some of the things that I think contribute to some of the unnecessary controversies in Islam, Dennis.
Thank you, Imam Turay. I want us to, and let's back it up by Quranic references when it comes to the family, you know. And I like what Mr. Dukuly said about, hey, this whole polygamy, even though it's in the Quran that you can marry as many as this, but people don't do it because of probably economic reason. I don't think Fatima want to be in that other relationship. But let's talk about the rights of the women in the home. There are Qurans. There's a Quranic reference that say if a man can beat his wife. Is that true?
Before coming to that, please, let me just go a little bit back, because our sister made mention of something that was so surprising to you. That if a woman is in a menstrual cycle, and not only that, after birth, the postnatal bleeding, you can touch the Quran, you can go to any holy places. It's not only unique to Islam. Even if you check in the book of Leviticus 15:19-33, you find it in there. If you check in the New International Version of the Bible in 1 Timothy 2:12, and if you look in the 1 Corinthians 14:34, it's also there. A woman cannot, you're not even supposed to talk into it. So that's a different case.
No, are not practicing the mainstream of Christianity. I don't know of any church where
I don't know which one you call mainstream or not, but for us Muslims, Islam is defined, Mr. Jah. That's it. Islam is defined as a total submission to the will of Allah. Al-Istislam lillah bit-tawheed. Nothing compared to that. You must completely submit yourself. And this is where I really admire the brother Dukuly, the point he brought. That indeed the faith to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is submission. And this is why we Muslims claim that Jesus was a Muslim, because he submitted to God, Abraham, Moses, and the rest of the prophets. They all submitted to God's will. You don't have your own will. Whatsoever Allah says or God says, you have no choice. There's a quotation of Ilm al-Usul. It says, إِذَا صَدَرَ الْأَمْرُ مِنَ الْآلِ إِلَى الدَّانِ وَلَا يُوجَدُ أَيْ قَرِينَةٍ تَدُلُّ عَلَى إِسْتِحْبَابِهَا أَوْ كِرَاهَتِهَا تُفِيدُ الْوُجُوبِ. In an Islamic law, Sharia says, whenever a law comes from the above to the beneath, meaning from God to us, and there's nothing there to say that no, the law that came down, it is compulsion. No, it's not compulsion. It is detested, or no, it's not detested. It is forbidding. There is nothing there to make it clear. It suffices injunction. It's compulsory. You must do it. God told us point blank. Whatever you made mention of, God told us clear. He said, if it is good for you, it is your decision. It is not compulsory that every Muslim or every man marries 3, 4, 5 wives. No. He said, he gave a sharat, a condition. Ankihu ma taba lakum. Marry that which is what? Best for you. It's good for you. Masna, twice, twos, thulasa, threes, waruba, or 4. But there is another verse that joined to that many people don't say. وَإِنْ خِفْتُمْ, but if you fear that marrying 2, 3, or 4, that you will not be equitable, you will not be fair, that you will not be just amongst them, وَإِنْ كُنْتُمْ أَلَّا تَعْدِلُوا فَوَاحِدًا, then marry 1. So who knows? It may not be economic viability or sexual potency, which are the 2 main hallmark of polygamy. It may not be them. Somebody may be sexually potent, or they may be politically, let's say, economically viable. But within themselves, they say, the Quran says, "Balil insan ala nafsi." But human being, you know yourself than anyone else. Probably within yourself, you know you would never, or you can never be just amongst them. And Allah gave you the option, then marry 1. So amongst the Arab, if probably you see them that they are not doing it, they know themselves. But that does not give any justification that it cannot be done. Because that'll be real, Jah. If you look at the ratio of men to women, it's far high. Women are 2 or 3, 4 times more than men. Let's assume all the men.
It's not true.
Let's assume all the men marry. I'm coming. Please.
No, that ratio of the word.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let me just learn, please. All the men get married to one wife. Those are taking drugs, those are in prison, those that are dying. Some are leaving wives, some are giving birth to daughters. If all of us take 1 woman, the rest of the women, and nobody takes them, what happens to our society? The spirituality that we all yearn for. I'm coming here. The spirituality that we all yearn for, the modesty that we all fight, it will be undermined. Even if all the men marry 2 wives, there will still be women in excess. So probably to curtail that, I will not be married, then I'm running behind other women. Or a woman will be married and other women are left, they will jump behind other women. Probably it could be a remedy. So now, let us come to the choice of a woman that Mr. Dukuly made mention of. For allowing your husband to marry another one is just in the middle of it. Now come to the beginning. For even a male to marry a female, a man to marry his wife, like back in the days of the Arabs, in culture, women were forced to marry. Islam condemns that. You cannot marry a woman forcibly. In the Arab culture, when a man dies and leave property, his wife was considered as one of the properties. And the eldest son could marry that. Islam came and abolished that. They were considered to be property. They were forced. So you cannot marry a woman forcibly. A father cannot give a daughter forcibly to a man in marriage. It's wrong in Islam. It happened during the Prophet's time. A lady took a complaint to the Holy Prophet and said, "My father has forcibly married me to this man." So I came to give you the complaint. And the Prophet frowned. And he asked her, "Do you want to live with that man or you will not live with him? It is your choice. It is your right in Islam." And the lady clearly said, "I understand, oh, Prophet of Allah, but I only wanted it to be openly known by my fellow women that indeed a woman has a right to choose or to refuse." Now let's come to you agreeing or not agreeing or saying that you will leave your husband if he marries a second wife or third wife. To be honest, it is not the first wife responsibility or power to stop the male from marrying another woman. It is her right to be told whether she accepts it, she doesn't accept it, there's a time frame, talk to her, give us gifts and stuff like that, but you need to talk to her. But she cannot say you don't have to do it, and she has stood before what? The injunction of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which is also dangerous.
No, Brother Turay, all I was making that I was just making reference to the fact that the woman has the right to condition her marriage on that condition.
And I
From
really
the very
want
day they are meeting, right? From the very day they are meeting and making marriage proposal, if she does that and the man accepts it, that's a different case.
Yeah, but I'm only saying she has the right to do that. And
that's what I'm saying. I agree with you.
I guess the point
I'm probably agreeing with what you Yeah.
Yeah, the point
If
I'm
I meet
making,
a woman that I want to marry and I
the point I'm
propose,
making, the point I'm making, Imam Turay, is that I don't know anybody. I've never heard from anywhere in my existence that a marriage has been conditioned on what I just said. In other words, what I've heard, what I've seen, the women have zero
I have
rights.
seen
Women
it,
have
Mr.
zero
Dukuly. I have
consultation.
seen that.
Yes, that's why I was making a
I
point
have
of saying
seen
that
that.
that
Okay,
women have
let
the
me
right.
let me get Fatima to chime in. Do you have any role when your husband is taking on? What's the role of the when marriage
So
decision?
honestly, let me tell you, there are conditions in Islam that I believe that will give a man permission to marry another woman. I'm not with the thing that my husband will marry a second or third woman. I don't believe that I will ever allow that. I mean, I'm being honest with you.
But then you are standing in the way of Allah, according to
Then
the Imam.
no. Before my husband marries me, we did had a discussion that let me tell you, there are conditions too that a man will be able to marry a second one. If you have a husband or a wife, if you have a wife who is far away from you, travel abroad, and you're in Liberia or something, with your wife's permission, because you don't want him to fornicate, he can have another wife. If you have a wife who cannot bear you children, because in Islam, we need to procreate. We need to have more people that will worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So with her permission, you will marry somebody who will bear him children. If you have a wife also who is too sick and cannot, and and all these women that you are marrying and you will provide for them equally, those are the things that will lead you to have a wife, a second or third wife. Those were the conditions that back in the days they used to speak of. When I went to Arabic school, if your wife is far away from you and you don't want to cheat, you don't want to sleep around, because Islam, those fornication is not allowed. You with her permission, you marry another woman. If your wife is too sick and cannot perform, sexual intercourse with you, for permission, you have to marry somebody else. If your wife cannot bear you children, and we are supposed to procreate with a condition, you can marry another. But for me, I believe that in all those areas, Allah has been kind to me. I'm able to bear children. I've bear 3 children. I'm able, I'm able to bear children. Allah has not made me ill in my health. I'm able to do all those things, and I'm able to worship Allah together with my husband. So and Allah was so generous and kind to me to have children in these United States that are Muslims. And sometimes I'm telling you, my son, when he used to live in my house, he was in college. When he come for break, when he wake up to pray, and sometimes I'm so tired, I'm late, and he would start saying, "Say your prayers before your prayers are said for you." Salat. I would just jump out of my bed. The kids are so firm in their religious belief that I'm so grateful to Allah that Allah has done that. But that's what I'm saying. I am not one of those. Imam, I will tell you my own truth. I'm not one of those that will be able to allow my husband, as my uncle Dukuly here said, I'm on his side. Before we even tie the collar, I will tell you, I said, Papa, that me and you agree. If that agreement is in place, we will get married. And if you sneak behind my back and marry somebody else, we're not in marriage, because I'm capable of making my husband happy. I'm capable of being with my husband to do anything that he wants. He shouldn't be waiting for me to get too old now where I can't bear the children, but I'm capable of doing all of those things. So if I will not allow my husband to have a second wife. Seriously, I won't.
And is there any reference in the Quran say you can take another wife whether your current wife agrees or not?
You have to pay. No, there is something that said that you
No.
have to talk to her. You have
What
to.
if she doesn't accept it? What if she doesn't
Yes,
accept it?
what is
You see, the verse that this polygamy in Islam is a social thing, and it's conditioned. It's not just willy nilly. Oh, I want to marry another one. I go no,
Because our
there are
desire as men, we always want more women, right? So if you have
Yes.
that, I don't know what will stop you. If
there are
to
well
get
no.
wives,
There are boundaries. There are conditions imposed.
Thank
There
you.
are
Obviously,
there are a lot of things that must come in place before it happens. But the way we see it practiced nowadays, it makes people to feel as if
It's just,
you just go and marry one and bring it home. That's the impression people get.
Yeah.
No, but
that's what I
the
was.
Quran. But does the Quran stop you if you're married to
Yes,
Fatima?
yes,
Okay.
yes.
Okay. What's the
Yes.
reference?
At the tail of that verse that talks about polygamy, it says, وَإِنْ خِفْتُمْ أَلَّا تُعَدِّلُوا فَوَاحِدًا. If you are afraid you are not going to do justice
to the women,
then
don't
only
do
one.
it. Only one.
Because
prohibits you.
Because so there's one conditionality there. So Allah is saying to you, He knows us best.
Mm-hmm.
He knows how difficult it is to be just, especially when you have two women, the way it should be. It's like, Dennis, the analogy that I always use in Islam, in order to prove fornication for the person to be punished, the guideline is two people must see the man and the woman in the act where the man is penetrating the woman.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's so difficult to see that.
You got to be graphic like that.
Yeah. So I guess the reason for that is it's extremely difficult to see that. That's why that condition is there as a reason to say, okay, then these people have fornicated, then the law must apply to them. I guess I'm simply trying to tell you that it's almost impossible to see that. So because the punishment is so harsh. Now, when it comes to polygamy, we in Islam, we say the main reason for marriage in Islam is procreation.
Procreation.
Now, when there are conditions that inhibit that action, then the man, with the permission of his wife, can ask to have a woman that can bear him children.
Yeah.
So Allah knows, Dennis, if you have 10 pairs of shoes, I'm sure there are going to be 2 pairs of shoes that you're going to like more than the other 8.
Yeah.
Allah knows that. That's why Allah said, if you know you cannot be just, because it's not easy to be just. We're talking about emotions here. We're talking about feelings here. We're talking about many other things that come to play. But the way we practice it, we don't care about any of those things. In fact, the way I know it should be practiced, if you have 2 wives, you should have 2 homes separate for each of these women. Now, I know people who got 2 wives, 3 wives, they all live in one single room with their children. You know, and every woman is fending for herself and her children. I mean, Dennis, it's just so bad to the point where, you know, it makes you wonder,
Islam.
What kind of Muslims are these people? That's not what Islam calls for. That's not what Islam says. So that condition is a huge one. If you are afraid that you cannot do justice, then marry only one. In which case, you don't have to.
You must stand on that.
So, I mean, that's just the rule. This is in the Quran. This is a Quranic verse. Now, when you look at chapter 5, verse 49,
we got more to cover before we close. So
yes,
we can beat this one to death. The Iman want to say something, then we can move on to the next.
Okay, go ahead.
Iman,
on the same polygamy, we are all speaking almost from one angle, except where a bit differ. In the Quran, Allah talked about being just. But we need to know there's a difference between justice and equity. Even your own children, though it is forbidding to choose amongst who to love best, but you see parents still doing that, right? Does it mean we can have children? No, we have to. Nature that we are created with, the fitra, you can never, ever love 2 persons at the same time, even among your children. You will look at some criteria set. The one that is dutiful, obedient, respectful, studious, prays on time, religious, and stuff. Probably you give them preference above the other one. Amongst the children, right? It's natural. And amongst the women, such also exists. The warning that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave us in the end of that verse, amongst the 2 or 3, he said, one of the women, La taj'aluha kalmu'alaqa. Do not give the one preference and raise them above the other one, and abandon the other one as if she's what? Abandon and divorce. That any stranger that comes to the other will say, oh, the man lovely wife here. That is wrong. Do not draw that line of demarcation between them, so that a stranger will easily identify who is loved or who is rejected. But to say you love all of them equally, you do it for them 100% the same, it's not what the Quran says. I'll be very honest. That's not what Islam says or the Quran says.
I guess Imam
And
Turay.
that does not mean that if you cannot do it equally to them or give them equally, or and so on and so forth, then it's not allowed. Also, it's not telling him.
Imam Turay, my reading of that
Thank
is
God Fatima will not be part of that.
Imam Turay, my reading of that verse is, even though it is allowed for us to do, but it's not encouraged for the reason that I just cited. So just because it's allowed doesn't necessarily mean you are encouraged. It's like a divorce in Islam. We are allowed to divorce, but divorce is not encouraged. So you need to do everything you can to salvage your marriage so that you don't get the divorce. But if you come to the point where there's no resolution, yes, you must divorce. Polygamy is in the same boat where it's allowed. But if you cannot meet the guidelines that allows that, then you shouldn't, because
But
it's
the
not a
Imam is saying nobody meets those guidelines. He said there's no way you can love two persons the same.
Yeah,
So
but that's just not the.
Even Allah himself said it in a same verse.
That's just not the only aspect. It's not only love.
Arabic
When
grammar,
you talk about equity,
Arabic
when you
grammar,
talk about
Allah
justice,
says,
it's not just love.
"Walan, you will never, walan tastati'u an tu'adilu bayna nisa." Never will you men be
Imam
able
Turay,
to be just among women. Never, they can never be. He himself said it.
Imam Turay,
We got the point.
in the Quran, Allah is the most eloquent speaker that you will ever come across.
That's right.
Now
Of
he
course.
speaks in such a way that sometimes he deliberately leaves things ambiguous for a purpose. Okay, and sometimes it's as clear as he can be, as the sun can be. Now, when we talk about equity and equality, these are two different words with two different meanings in practice. Now, you just chose the word love. It's not only love we are talking about here. That love is just one element of that justice that we are talking about.
Of course. Yeah.
Yeah. So if love is only one element, how about feeding them? How about housing them? How about looking after their well-being? So it's not just loving them. I mean, you might not love a woman, but you could take care of her. You know, you might not love a woman, but you might meet her needs.
Should you do it equally or equitably?
Yes, that's how it should be.
Which
Because
one?
Dennis, that's what I was telling you.
The
person who created us, the person who knows us more than ourselves, said it's not an easy thing to do. In other words, even though it's allowed, but it's not encouraged.
Yeah, I want to go with that one.
I don't know if you get the.
Let me quote the Quran and tell me whether this is correct. It says, men are caretakers of women, as may have been provisioned by Allah over women and tasked with supporting them financially. And righteous women are devoutly obedient and went along protective of what Allah has entrusted them with. And if you sense ill conduct from your women, advise them first. If they persist, do not share their beds. Don't be in the bed with them. If they still persist, then discipline them gently. But if they change their ways, do not be unjust to them. Surely Allah is more high or great. That's from Surah 434.
Yeah, Surah to Nisa.
Fatima, they said men should beat their wives gently. I don't know how gentle that would be. With belt, with slap, or with key. What does that mean?
So I think most things in the Quran, like that verse, is taken out of context. Okay. I think if you're in a loving relationship with your partner, okay, the kind that I will have with my own partner, so he can't go marry a different woman. If you're in that kind of loving, caring relationship with your partner, and you do something against him, and he talk to you, you would try to reconsider. I when I was married to my first husband and even my second husband now, I've never been disciplined harshly by my husband. Because I don't know, I think, honestly, if you're married in Islam, you consider the Quran to be your guide. You know, like I told you, you fear to do anything against your partner that is not right or that is not just. We do have our traditions and our culture and our way of life that people try to interject into, like the religion, but you know, some of us would know too much. Because I think with my first husband, I knew more Quran than him. Because, like, you know, in Liberia, my grandfather was the first person who left Liberia with a Liberian passport to go to Hajj, and he was the first person to build provide the land and build the Benson stream of Al Haji Famiya Sharif. So, at a very early age, I was made to learn Quran. So, with the rights of women were encouraged. He encouraged women. He wanted us to learn, wanted us to know. So yeah, I don't think a man to take rotten and beat your wife and unmercifully. Like I told you, Islam is
So what should be the degree of that beating?
Nah, nobody putting their hands on nobody. You talk to your wife, your talk, and your you ain't put
let me just come in briefly.
Because I don't know about modern day. You're beating nobody, especially in the West. Who you putting your hands on here, America? Yeah, I beg you.
Let's not drag on that, Mr. Jah. When you look at the context of that ayah, if you look at the context of that ayah, and the way it has been interpreted by those who interpret the Quran, by those who understand the Islamic law, the fiqh and Sharia, the beating they are talking about, if you see it, it's not beating. Just how they gave you instances, cut down the sustenance, don't share bed with them. Meaning, if the person does wrong and you talk no way, do one of them for some time. And if they can't change, do the next one. Don't share the bed. And in those processes, it's not you alone doing it, and getting the relatives and family involved to talk to her as well, the imam or whosoever. But if she insists, the beating they're talking about, if you explain to him, Mr. Jai, yourself, you know it's not beating. He said, take the tip of your gown, beat the woman. Is that a beating? That's not a beating. Some say no. The stick they used to brush that teeth, the stick. Say that?
No, I say, is that in the Quran too?
I said the exegesis of the Quran is what I'm telling you about. It's not everything that will be written for word for word, right? There are some phrases of the Quran interpret each other. And there are some people that are schooled with that. They have the knowledge and ability to translate and explain the Quran. So their explanation tells us that what it really means is it doesn't mean beating that we see people do in Africa, bruising all their wives and hitting on them. No. Woman is like an egg, it's fragile. Just how the hen protects the egg, sits over it when it's raining until when it gets hatched, protects the what? The babies from being caught by fox or being harmed or killed. Islam said this is how we need to look after our wives, our women in Islam, our daughters, our sisters. So it's not something to beat on.
If I might add, Imam Turay, you see, then it's sometimes when you read the exegesis of Quran done by Orientalists, the way they characterize certain things, and that because that same verse, Dennis, you can see it in another publication. It says, "Gently discipline them."
Right. And the good thing about the Quran is it has not changed. It's not like the Bible that comes from different languages, right?
That's right.
So when it says something, it's direct, right? It's not subject to too much explanation. So when you talk about the exegesis, is that why is there a need for all that thorough explanation? It's plain. Discipline them gently.
Well, because there are people who have agendas in terms of how they want people to perceive certain verse.
But it's plain, right? Discipline them gently. It's plain. What interpretation do you need?
Islam. The only religion that is accepted to God is Islam. I mean, people who are zealous about Islam will say that they are talking about our Islam. And if I'm open-minded, I would say, no, I'm talking about, the oneness of God, a monotheism, etc., etc. So this same thing can apply here. He said, gently discipline them. Now, I mean, if you are there to bash Islam, you want to prove to people how Islam doesn't respect women, of course you would dwell on that one word and say Islam says you should beat them, right? So again, it comes to the context, the reason why this particular verse was revealed. Now, if you look at the way women is looked at in chapter 33, 35, it talks about the spiritual equality. And you go to 33, 30, even in 4.
Mr. Dukuly, the reason I brought this up is it doesn't give the woman that same authority to say if the man did this is what you need to do, right? Should the woman, I don't know if there's anywhere where the Quran say, hey, woman, if the man does it, don't sleep in the bed with him. Discipline him gently and do X, Y, Z. So everything is on the woman because man is the head. Is that why?
It says, الرجال قوامون على النساء بما فضل الله بعضهم على بعض. So those two words is they are key in that particular verse. It says, women are caretakers of women, men are caretakers of women. with what Allah has given them. In other words, if you are in a relationship, you are supposed to provide for this woman. Just because you are providing for her doesn't make you any superior to her. It is just your role prescribed by the Quranic teachings. And like I said earlier, even if this woman is a millionaire, as a matter of religion, you are still responsible to look after this woman. He or she can choose to spend on the household if she wants to, right? So, I mean, to sit here and say, because you are the husband, you can do whatever you want. No, Islam doesn't say that, and Islam doesn't encourage that. Just because we see people being,
But beating is not even the only discipline, though.
So,
Yeah.
No,
so
beating is not the only
I
discipline.
grew up in a household that had only one.
Hold on, Mr. Dukuly. Since President Boakai became president, your Boakai name now you're promoting it too much. So I'll call you Abu. Yeah, Fatima, that's true.
Yeah, beating is not only the discipline. If you love your husband, you want to share his bed, you want to be with him. It's there. Try to do things that will frustrate her like that. If your wife like to be with you and she's acting out of the way, don't share the bed with her.
That's step 2.
Yeah.
Step 3 is the discipline.
You can discipline people in many different ways. Financially. You would say,
pumping tire.
No pumping tire.
Let's talk about the last thing I want to talk about before we bring on callers here quickly is modesty.
Okay.
Women should be modest. What does this mean? Fatima, let me start with you on that.
Okay, I think modest. Okay. First, when I first came to the United States, I was very modest. I used to cover my head. I never used to cover up like my whole face. I just used to dress like this and wear nice long sleeve until 9/11 when they were pinpointing us and treating us so terribly in America. So I just decided that Islam is a complete way of life. It's your faith, is how you perceive Allah as the beginning and end of your life. You make sure that every day you worship him in truth and in light. You make sure that he's the source of all of your everything that you have in this world. Allah becomes the source, and so I stopped wearing the hijab. I only wear it during Ramadan. I wear it on Fridays when I'm going, because I work in corporate America too. Because now imagine me being a black woman, an African with an accent, and being a Muslim. Like, you have triple things against you. But at least when you come home, you are able to we don't worship. One thing about Islam is we don't worship with our hijab. Before you stay in the presence of Allah, you're covered. So I come home when I'm doing my prayers and stuff, I wear my hijab. And everything that we do against Allah, we are able to come to him in terms and pray and worship him and ask for forgiveness, and he will. So modesty is just not being provocative in your dressing, exposing yourself to other men other than your husband. And although, like, I believe that also, I mean, at a certain point in your life too, you just believe that. I feel a little not so good wearing certain kind of things at my age now. I'm in my 50s. I don't feel good dressing a certain kind of way. You know what I'm saying? It just comes with time. Modesty is just maintaining respect for yourself and others, not being provocative around other male people besides your husband, showing respect to yourself as a woman. So that's why I consider as a modest person.
Does it only apply to women?
No. Well, usually our Muslim men, you see them, they look at my brothers, they're here. I mean, they're not walking around with pum shorts on like the way the girls are doing the country.
But to have your wife beater on, especially those of us with the 6'5".
Let me tell you something. Even in Hajj, the men put the white robe on. They go in Hajj. Women don't cover. Women don't just wear the white robe. They have to be fully, garmented. Because the fact is that for women, your body, when you expose your body to other people, people are excited when they look at you. It's distracting. So I think I actually respect modesty in Islam. I'm not an extremist in that, but I respect that. I really do.
What does that mean when you say you're not an extremist?
Extremist is that the ones that I cover only the two eyes. So that was not made for me. One of the two eyes you can see.
Dukuly, what are the references for modesty?
The references is that a woman that is covered, that her chest area is covered, her arms are covered, her legs, she wears things that are long enough. Her back, she's not, wearing too much tight clothing to show her shape and stuff like that. Those are considered modest.
So, modesty in Islam is applicable to both men and women, and and so in that instance, guidelines that govern that modesty. If you look at the Quran, verse chapter 33, verse 53, and also chapter 33, verse 59. I guess in 59, that's where the name of the long gown is actually mentioned. So modesty in Islam, you are told to cover the part of your body that define you as a man, and the part of you that define you as a woman. So you don't.
And what is that?
You are told to cover your breast, your chest. Your
those vital areas. What about the face?
Yeah. So yeah, you also just your hair, like the face is allowed to be open. Now, just so you know, Dennis, there is a school of thought. They represent a very, very tiny minority of scholars who said you need to cover every part of your body. But like I said, they represent a very, very tiny minority of scholars who said that. But the overwhelming majority stick to the notion where women is allowed to be modest, leave the face open, and the palm and the two hands here. It's very common. And for me personally, my opinion of women having themselves covered all over, I think it's part of the Arab way of protecting their women, jealousy, and whatever you want to call it. I don't think it's anywhere closer to religion.
Imam, according to the Quran, what really should women wear? Women and men, both men and women, what should they wear? If you can unmute.
You're on mute, Imam.
According to the Islamic law, a man is considered naked from the navel to the knee. I repeat, under Islamic law, a man is considered from the real nakedness from the navel to the knee. But assuming if I would just wear a cloth to cover my navel to my knee and get outside, society is going to frown on me, no matter where I am. People would think different about me, right? So it'd be better that I cover myself. But that which is considered in the prayer for men is from the navel to the knee. In Surah ila Rukbatay. Then for women, the entire body is considered as their nakedness, except for their palms and their feet. Now, the verse is telling us that the prophet tell the believing women to cover themselves. And a specific word was used, right? In a nutshell, the law is telling you, cover your body, do not wear anything that will show your physique. Sometimes you see people wear hijab, but wear tight pants, they stress time heads up, and sneakers. That's what the essence of the hijab. You wear tight jeans, your entire shape is showing, which is somehow provocative to the outsider, be a Muslim or not Muslim, even though we are told to lower our gaze. And yes, go ahead.
No, that reminds me that taking part in gymnastics, basketball, football, sports as a whole.
I have seen Muslim women in sport, they cover their entire body. I've seen women, even in the country meet, right?
It will show your physique somehow. I don't know how you can really participate in sport if you. Fatima wants to say something?
They do wear loose
something to expose
clothing.
Okay.
They do. Yes, it's not.
You have to wear clothes that is smooth that will not show your physique, your hips, your thigh, and maybe your.
And what is that trying to protect? What is the issue here? Somebody will see you and get excited.
You tell me, for example, set the trap and see. Even when you are much younger, you will not go around women that are fully covered, to be very honest. Their dress code is a security for you, no matter how brave you are. Or someone who dresses sexy and goes out, as soon as you see them, your mind, your heart follow them, right?
No,
When you see, I mean, somebody that is modestly dressed,
to me,
whether a Muslim or a non-Muslim.
As a person,
no, I'm not talking about you as a person. I'm only saying something, yeah. Right?
No,
somebody who is modestly dressed. Yeah, I know. Somebody who is modestly dressed and somebody who is rudely dressed. If you see the two of them, for God's sake, who will you really look at and admire? To be honest, not you as a person. It's a person who is not dressed properly, right? So to be free from that trap, but in fact, God gave us a strict rule. He said, tell the believing men and their women to lower their gaze. It's not to be looking everywhere. If we were to go by that, of course, even if somebody exposes their body, especially we are in the West now, maybe.
I like that.
Let's lower your gaze.
Because the pressure is always on the women.
Except if you see it mistakenly and remove your eyes, just lower your gaze.
Yeah, lower your gaze. Why is that not being promoted and we're making the women to be wearing?
So Allah says, the Prophet should tell Kulil Mu'minin, tell the believing men to lower their gaze.
Lower your gaze.
And hold fast to their chastity, their privacy. They should not give it to just anybody. It's for their wife. And tell the women too, the same thing, to lower their gaze. They should not loosen their wrapper for just any man. They have a safekeeping, but just for their husbands, vice versa. If we were to just live at that, of course, dressing naked will have some negative impact, but will not be as negative as it is today.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you are just joining us, this is focused on Liberia. We are discussing the roles, the rights, and responsibility of women in Islam. We will take a short break. When we come back, we're going to bring in our callers to take part in this very, very important discussion about the roles, the rights, and responsibility of women. Keep tuned.
God gave us this country.
Indeed, God gave us this country, Liberia, and we are discussing the role, rights, and responsibility of women in Islam. Let's bring on our callers now. Oh, I'm having trouble here. If you have not done so already, the number is on the screen. Please dial the number. Our first caller here is Kalebo Gonglo. Kalebo, I thought you were talking on the politics. You're talking religion too. Go ahead.
Oh, Dennis, I have some secrets in my life, though. The current Iman of it's a grand Iman.
Yeah, Iman Cry.
Ali cried. Ali Cry. We used to call it Alexander Cry. Yeah, now actually enrolled at the Islamic study together, but I didn't stay.
Oh, okay.
In 1987. So yeah, I got a little bit of story there. I have just one question, maybe a comment quick. I'll be very quick. I know you got many callers. You know, when the issue of the role of women in Islam was being discussed, I listened to Fatima. I listened to the other panelists. But I was kind of interested in Fatima's defense of women not having a role. And she used women's natural menstrual cycle as one of the reasons. You know, so I was thinking, but there's still a logic here. I don't follow this logic because why if a male Iman gets sick? Of course, no Iman do get sick. So what happens? Are they not replaced by another male Iman for that period when they are sick? It do get sick, and even sickness may last for even a month or more. Women don't have menstrual cycle for 2 weeks, for 1 month. So the same natural condition that may inhibit women from having to lead prayer, men too get sick too. So to use that natural condition, which is not only women that it can affect in terms of being sick, I would consider that, lack of better choice of words, sickness, men Iman, male Iman too get sick too. So that logic, in my view, I don't agree with it. Maybe you should come by to comment further on this. But my question is, and I'm asking this question just for educational purpose, maybe if they are stated to restate it. What does Islam say about the creation story like Adam and Eve as is in the Bible? What does Islam say about that? I just want to hear that view.
Same thing. Islam is Old Testament plus something. All right, let me bring on the next.
Can I respond to him? Or you want to bring on? I wanted to respond to him.
Yeah, let's jot it down. Let me bring in 2 more callers and then we can respond.
All right.
All right. Evans Morris. Go ahead, Evans.
Thank you. Thank you for the show and thank you for to the panelists. And let me just give you a caveat, a disclaimer. When we question Islam, it's not questioning the individual, it's just questioning the religious ideology. Let's, just to get that out of the way. In, I think, Sunnah Abi Dawood, it says that the Prophet said, when a man calls his wife to his bed and she refuses and does not come to him, and he spends the night angry, the angel curses her till the morning. So that's one thing, like you were saying, Mr. John, when somebody is if the wife refuses the husband, they're being cursed by the angel. That's almost like they're being punished by God, Well, how can a woman punish the man? What does God do on her behalf when she's wronged by her husband? And then second, the Prophet said that in the court, I think this is in the Sharia, in the law, that in terms of witnesses, you need 2 women. 2 women is equivalent to 1 man when it comes to to being witnesses in the court. Some people are saying that the Prophet is saying that women is half a brain because you need 2 of them to equivocate for 1 man. And then lastly, I will ask this question. Maybe the Imam. I want to give the Imam some props because I think he's following the Sunnah. He's not sugarcoating things. He's saying it exactly as it should be. Instead of trying to backpedal some things, he's saying exactly what the Quran said. That the woman, her entire body is a private. It's like a private part, like her hair and other things. That's why you see most women wear they complete their job and they cover themselves fully because that's what the Quran actually says. And I think he's right on that point. But my last point here will be the muta marriages, which is called temporary marriage, which the Prophet allowed, for people to do, where you can marry a woman for 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, a week, a month. And in modern day, we call it prostitution because you pay for that marriage and you enjoy her for that time, and then you can annul the marriage after that short period of time. So do we consider that prostitution, or do we consider that legal in Islam? Muta marriages.
Thank you.
My question. Thank you.
I never heard that. Thank you. Let me take the last caller here, and then we'll get our guests to respond. Hey, Chokopi.
Yes, sir. How you doing, sir?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Sympathy to the family.
Thank you.
Reverend Kofa.
Yeah. That's Edward. We're calling from. Go ahead, Edward.
Canada.
Yeah.
Edward, we're calling from Canada.
Go ahead.
I have 2 questions over here. The first question is any of these guys in the Iman, the lady on there and the public over there, are they any of them are you guys scholars?
Yeah. One is Imam. So go ahead.
So in that case, I was listening to a scholar called Sheikh Yakakari. Sheikh Yakakari said in the narrative of the Quran, Sheikh Yakakari, he studied he studies Islam. He is in how you call it? He
Edward,
in
just go ahead with your question. We'll research that later.
all right. So the question is, if you say that it's permissible for a woman to wear clothing, where that came from? Because as I know that came from when the prophet went to visit his son and saw his son nakedness. Not his son nakedness, but his son wife nakedness. That they came up with that ruling as in Sharia law for them to have them cover themselves, because the prophet took his stepson and married her. So I wanted to ask those questions. If you guys can answer the question, if you have knowledge on that.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, those are all the colors for now. Let me start with you, Fatima.
I was going to respond to the gentleman who talked about the menstrual cycle. I don't know in the Old Testament, because I went to all Baptist school. I went to Rick's Institute, and I did study the Bible. Even in the Old Testament, when women were having their period, they were considered unclean.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that women cannot lead prayer in front of other women. I just feel that when it has to do with that was mine. I didn't say it was Islam. I said for me, I believe that whenever a woman sees a menstrual cycle, she have to take days off. I said those were some of the consideration that I don't even believe that a woman should be an imam. That is me personally. I'm not saying that's what Islam says. That's what I said, me personally. So he could say whatever he wanted to say with regards to what I'm saying. The other two colors, the things that he said, I mean, honestly, I didn't understand anything that he said. I'm sorry. I didn't understand what they said. So I'll leave it to the gentleman to respond. Because the other one talk about the prophet's son. Prophet killed his son and married a wife. Which prophet? Prophet Mohammed, his milk, children died young. So whose wife is he talking about? Iman, isn't that right? Didn't the prophet's sons die at young ages?
Yeah. Let me follow up on
Zaid.
Oh, that's
We'll come to the answer. He's talking about the adopted son Zaid. Yeah, he's talking about Zainab.
He's talking about Zaid's story.
Yeah.
Zaid.
Fatima, let me follow up with what Kalebo was asking you. That you said because the woman has probably 5 days to be sick. He said the same thing applies to men. Men can get sick too. So if the woman is sick, why can't we say, okay, let another male imam replace the woman for the 5 days that she's sick?
But being an imam is a complete way of life. When you become an imam, you have to have a wife who is understanding, because when duty calls, even your children, you beg your wife to watch your children, you won't be able to go. You know what I'm saying? Imam, isn't that true? You will have to ask your wife to take care of the home. You will have to plead with her. Your duty calls all the time. If people are sick, you have to go and try to offer, especially when people are dying, you have to go to the dead people or people sick or somebody. You always on the go. For us women, we're already married and taking care of the household. We're taking care of our children. We're doing a lot more on our plate. So I personally, I'm not saying in Islam, I said I personally do not feel that the imam job will be for a woman. But there are women that are, even in France, there's a woman that's an imam. I mean, if she's able to juggle it, a woman can be an imam. I'm not stopping her from being one. I'm just saying, for me personally, I won't try to be an imam. That's all I'm saying. I know I can't.
May I just buttress?
But do you encourage women to be imam, Fatima?
No, I do not.
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead, Imam.
Go ahead, Imam.
Let me just buttress that particular aspect of it. You asked a question: if women are in their menses or they are postnatal bleeding after birth, meaning they can be imam, as Fatima said, it is right. So why, if men are sick, so it means that they're not supposed to be imam too? I mean, I've said it over and over, and I'm saying it again. We are not actually looking at Islam to be what we want it to be, or what we perceive it to be, or what we feel and think that is good for us. No. There are certain things that God said we should do. If we are looking at it, it's a constraint for us. But as a good Muslim, as we want to be, we need to strive little by little and do it because it is good for us. Now, God did not say that if a man is sick, is having headache, or is having running stomach, if you're imam, you can't go in the mosque. No. Or if you're having goa, or you have typhoid, or you have cancer, you can't go in the mosque. It's not in any religious book.
Or COVID.
Except maybe to some condition, the sickness you have is easily transferable.
Contagious.
People can get it
Like
very
COVID.
easy. Then you don't have to go amongst the gathering. That's one. But it's clear in the Bible, in the Quran, that a woman should avoid the book of God and the worship center of God. And the menstruation you may mention, even the law states there are certain categories. People receive different times, different days, and some exceed. And there's a law that if 3 days, 7 days, at most 10 days. But the law says if it exceeds the 10 days, it's not considered a normal menstruation anymore. They call it istihada. You have to have ablution for every prayer and pray. That cannot stop it. So these laws are there. We have no choice to refine it or change it to suit our happiness or to suit quote unquote westernization to make anybody happy. It is God's laws. We have decided to be for Him. This is why we are striving. We can fall and stand up until we can reach where we want to be. So that's the addition I wanted to do on it. Now, if I'm supposed to answer question number 1, yeah.
Yeah, the one on muta. I've never heard about muta.
I've written all of the questions now. 5 questions is muta. It's in the Quran. We'll come to it.
Okay.
How it started, when it started, what happened, and stuff like that. Now, let's come back to question number 1. The brother said, what does Islam says about the creation of Adam, right?
The creation of the
There was
universe.
No, he said Adam, right?
Okay.
He said Adam. Yeah, he made specific
go ahead.
reference to Adam. There was a controversy around the prophet Jesus in Islam during the time of the noble prophet. As it is today, people call him God, Son of God, the third person in the Trinity, and so on and so forth. So on one of the answerings to the prophet about Jesus, God told Prophet Muhammad ﷺ to tell the people that the like of of Isa is just like that of who? Adam. Inna mathala Isa inda Allah kamasal Adam.
Yeah.
The similarity between Isa and Adam is no different. Khalaqahu min turab. He was created from a dust. Summa qala lahu. And after forming him, fashioning him, say to that clay, that dust, kun fayakun, be, and he became. So Adam and all of us were created from a clay, from a dust, irrespective of our languages, our colors, and diversities. So Adam was created from what? From the dust. And if I may go further, if you have anything, Mr. Dukuly, you can add. But if I may go further, question number 2, the brother said, the refusal of a woman.
Iman, we have 8 minutes to close, so if you can be brief in your answers.
He said the refusal of a woman to the husband. He said, the book said the angel crashes that book. I don't want to say the woman. In Islamic law, I'm a student of Islamic law. I can't just say I'm a scholar, but I'm a student of Islamic law. The first law in Islamic marriage, they say Haqqul Awlawi, bayna zawj wa zawja al-ijma. The first preference, the responsibility and rights are supposed to be fulfilled between husband and wife in marriage. The first is sex. If the man denies the wife, he's as well cursed. And vice versa. It's not only the woman has right. The Quran says, Hunna libasun lakum. You are their wife. Cover call to them and they are your comfort. Wa antum libasun lahunna. You are both a comforter for each other. But unfortunately, back home in Africa, as we were saying from the beginning, all of these things are pushed to the women, and that's not the case. A man is not supposed to deny your wife sex, and so the woman is not supposed to deny what? The wife sex, and vice versa. And if you deny each other, no genuine reason, you are both cursed, because you have broken the first responsibilities in marriage.
The covenant.
Question number 3. He talked about 2 witnesses being compared to one it gives a limitation to women. No, that's not the case in Islam. If you read a verse that talk about witnesses, and not only witness, that come back a little bit. When it comes to the distribution of property, what 2 women can get is entitled to 1 male. That's also is another big argument. Why? To them,
No.
they consider it to be a cheating. It's not. They say, what a male can get, 1 male child can get in the property distribution is what 1 woman gets. And the reason is simple. A woman property belongs to her. If she's married, she's rich, she has access, she has everything, the man is still responsible to feed her, buy her clothes, and lodge her. That woman property will be with her. The little one the man got will be catering to her, at the same time catering to his own sister and mothers, because we have to take care of them. So the same is compared to the witnesses. Women, all the rights that are given to us in Islam is also conferred to them. When it comes to the witness, also 1 woman, if you can see 2 men, if you have 1 woman, you take 2, 1 man take 2 women. But the reason does not mean that women are limited. Because if you read further down, God says, in the process of explaining, if one of the women falls short in explanation, it's not deliberate, then probably the other one can remind how, according to the book. So it does not give any derogation or being marginalized, no.
But why is the woman? Why would a woman fall short? Why is the woman expected to fall short instead of the man falling short?
Brother, the Quran told us, when Jesus' grandmother prayed for that child that was expected, Hannah, and at the end of the day, she gave birth to Mary. She complained to God. Allah have given birth, but the child I asked for is a female. A male is not like a female. Why did she say that? And Allah knows who. So through that, Mary is the one who gave birth to Jesus. That's another one. It doesn't mean that a woman being 2 and a male being 1. I don't want to be a psychologist to explain that and give you the psychological understanding or explanation about this. Male is different from female, no matter what happens. This is how God created us.
And when you say different in terms of
Our understanding,
okay.
No, the only superiority I think we talked at the beginning of the program, right? Okay. The superiority was under the fear.
Understanding meaning intelligence.
See that?
Yeah, I said, what's the difference? What's the difference? You said difference in understanding?
That could be one. Different understanding and different of memory. You know, we have our common joke in our library setting. In our library setting, they say a woman has a basket that no matter what you do, they want 2 baskets. The one you do the good for is always cut from the bottom. That's our vow parable. Every good night she puts in that good basket, it falls because there's nothing behind it. But the evil, you can do 1,000 good, perhaps 1 good, she will remember that good one and the bad one and the good ones. But that's just a parable, a proverb. But in Islam, I maintain men and women in the sight of God are equal in everything. Socially, economically, of course. That's one of the reasons. Of course. That could be one of the reasons.
How is that possible? Fatima, you agree?
Then she's laughing. Then we come to
she doesn't agree
the question number 4, which we are interested in. The mutua, right?
Yeah.
Mutua has been and stay one of the controversial topics in Islam to discuss. Many people don't know about it.
I don't know about it.
And before I go into it, I told you our life, you're just hearing about it. That tells me that reading the Quran. I told you to be reading the Quran. Keep reading. Mutua, I mean in Arabic word, tamato meaning enjoyment.
Fun.
And this came, I think, the 2nd year when the Prophet migrated from Mecca to Medina. When they went to a battle, but also the reason why. First, I will tell you, it is in the Quran. The Quran says, "Famas tamata'atum bihinna fa'atuhunna ujurahunna farida." For those women that you want to have that pleasure with, that enjoyment with, give them their full due, meaning as a bridal price or what? A mahar. The Prophet allowed it when they went to battle, right? Even though some of the scholars are saying the Prophet allowed it to happen, some companions did it for some time, but he cut it off. Others are saying no, he cut it off when he brought it back and it was allowed, so it's still allowed. But now, lastly, whether it was, abolished by the second Khalifa Umar or it was not abolished, but the fact remains, the Prophet gave permission that it should be done and it's written in the Quran. Right?
Can you explain it a little bit?
Now,
Well, what is it?
now, for example, when I came from Africa, I left my wife home, right? And I've been here for 7 years, almost. If I come here, I'm not allowed to commit adultery. We are not supposed to fornicate or commit adultery. In the process, if I see a woman, I have to tell them, I'm not allowed, and you two are not allowed, though I will be responsible for just mine, also to commit adultery or fornication. I have a wife back home, but I want to marry you, for example, for 2-3 years. There are conditions and there are criteria set to go through them. It's not just between the two of you, like you meet a girl and 1 year, yes, and you give them certain money. There must be people that were witnesses. It must be in front of an imam or a religious person, and if it's completed, then one of the laws is, if the person says, for example, you will give me $10,000, be it a Canadian or US dollar. If that comes to the agreement and that money is paid, you're not responsible for fee her, or you're not responsible to house her. These are some of the rulings. And at the end of the day, whatsoever relationship that you have under Islam is considered halal. It's not forbidden. And if child comes from there, it's also what? Not forbidden. In the history of Islam, some companions have children like that. So it was introduced into Islam. So that's why they call muta'ah. Unfortunately, only one sect of Islam dealing with it. The majority, about 98% of the Muslims, they say, no, we're not doing it again. It's wrong. I'm not here to argue with them, but the question I want to ask anyone who says it's wrong, though it's reserved in the Quran, it's not, it's in the Quran. The Quran says, halal Muhammad halal ila yawm al-qiyamah wa haramuhu haram ila yawm al-qiyamah. Whatever the Prophet made halal, permissible, is permissible unto the day of judgment. Whatever he forbids is forbidden unto the day of judgment. So what do they say about that? I think within myself, if we were to adhere to these injunctions, what the Quran made special, if we are to hold on to them, the spread of fornication and committing of adultery in our Islamic or religious environment today will have been lessened. Many women in America, in Canada, in Australia, in other places, in that condition, our brothers are there, they don't have their wives there. If they were supposed to, if they were to engage in that as Muslims, then of course, always say they will not have said it. And finally, he said, where is the covering of women come from? The last question. I want to tell you that some police will come into. The covering of women come from the Quran. I think we've quoted here so many times. Allah says, Muhammad, tell your believing men and your women, tell them to tell their wives to cover their entire body. So it's clear. So these are my terms I have to make on this question. Thank you very much, and I probably my colleague would add.
Yeah, Mr. Dukuly, I want to start with the muta. That interests me a lot. And what are the conditions for it? and how many? I can say, okay, since I'm here for 3 years, you, number one, you will go 6 months. The other person, 7 months. So tell me, walk me through that idea. Unmute yourself. What are the conditions for this muta to be engaged in?
Muta is literally it's an Arabic word. It means pleasure.
Right. Now I say for the enjoyment you have had from them thereby, give them pay them because you enjoy them.
Yeah, and you have to look at the reason why that particular verse was revealed. And there's a reason why muta no longer exists in Sunni Islam. It's only existing in Shia Islam, simply because the decree was that yes, at the time when Prophet was in that situation, it was allowed, and when that period was over, and it was over. So this particular verse you're referring to is was referring to a particular incident, and only that incident. So, uh, and it's not even controversial in terms of whether it should exist or it shouldn't exist. Like I said, it's not Mota no longer exists in Sunni Islam, like I said, and I'm a Sunni Muslim, and so our understanding is that yes, it was allowed at one point. And remember, then in the Quran there are something that is done in Islam. So there will be a verse that will come down, and this verse will say X Y Z, and then another verse will come and replace that previous verse that was there. So like I said, in Sunni Islam, there's no mota. Mota is not allowed in Islam.
But what about the Quran? Is it still there?
Yeah, like I said, the verse is there, but that verse does
I
not.
cannot change.
Like I was saying to you,
So why will you not do it if the Quran said do
that's
it?
what I was just explaining to you. I said in the Quran there is a tradition where a verse comes in, and then another verse come and deal with the subject matter of the previous verse. In other words,
So give me an example, the one that deal with the subject matter of muta.
it's I don't know the verse on top of my head necessarily at this present time, because I did not. I can tell you there are many examples in the Quran. As for example, alcohol drinking. In the Quran, there's not a verse that explicitly says don't drink alcohol. Simply because you have to take the society in which the Quran was revealed in, the manner in which it was revealed, and to the people to whom it was revealed. So there's a verse that say, do not come closer to prayer when you are intoxicated. Does that mean you can be intoxicated if you're not praying? Yes, the logical understanding would be yes. But because drinking, intoxication was a habit of the community, was a habit of the society, Allah decided to introduce it gradually, so that you can't just come and say, "Oh, today's no more drinking." No, because it was a habit in the society, and Prophet Muhammad was addressing it. So it started with, "Do not come closer to prayer when you are intoxicated." Now, you pray 5 times a day. If you minus that from your total 24 hours, then you have a very limited time that you can be intoxicated. And then later on, he said the alcohol, the gambling, etc., is forbidden. It's an act of Satan. Don't go closer to them. So the previous verse said, do not come closer to prayers when you're intoxicated. And then the second verse come and say, gambling, playing cards, etc., etc. These are acts of Satan. Don't do them. So you can see the prohibition in the second one, and the first one telling you conditionally you cannot do this when you are this. And these examples are riddled in the Quran everywhere, in many parts of the Quran. So I mean,
if I may, though, I think in the Quran, I was not really aware of the muta situation, but in Islam rather you marry someone before having sex with someone. It's not like a religion that promotes boyfriend and girlfriend, promotes a relationship, sexual partners, and stuff like that. Islam believes that if you like someone or you are interested in someone, you do the proper thing. You meet the family, you provide a diary, the person likes you, you guys get married. So I think that's what it is. And according to the Imam, he said it was done during the war time when soldiers went to war and there were women around. Instead of them just having sexual intercourse with them, temporarily marry them and then, divorce them. Those were the olden days. In modern day Islam, marriages are encouraged amongst families so that divorces are limited, or divorces are the last resort. At the end of the day. So in most Muslim culture, you won't see a lot of divorces because those are the very, very last resort. So I don't think it's anything that we need to people just bring these things up because they want to act like they have the knowledge of Islam. I mean, it's good to know about it. Like today I learned something new, but they're making it seem like Islam is this rigid religion where if you don't do this, you're going straight to hell. No, Islam is the most peaceful religion. It's a religion where you don't have no middleman to talk to your God. You go directly to him by yourself. You sit and you talk to him. Everything that you want. No middleman, no pastor, no imam. The imams are just our guide, to tell us, if you're doing something, you come to him, you ask him to direct you, but you go directly to God. We all go directly to God. So that's what I love. That's the uniqueness that I love about Islam.
So then the term we use in Islamic study is the word abrogation. So some verses came down, and then those verses are abrogated in the Quran. It's a very common thing that scholars do and aware of in Islamic studies.
Right, and when we have discussion like this, because for a long time these things were not in the mainstream, so we don't have this kind of discussion.
That's
so
right.
Definitely, people will come up with questions. I saw my colleague Adman say, "Hey, Dennis is bringing all the negative stereotype." No, it's not the case. We must discuss these things. If we must, and bring Islam to the people to discuss, let's discuss it. Let's put everything on the table, and let us not feel that, hey, it's this question is wrong to ask, or they feel they're trying to show that they're trying to stereotype Islam. These are the controversial issues, and let's discuss them, right, Iman? But
let me just do a test, less than a minute follow on this motor. Brother Dukuly may mention that he can get it on top of his head that ayah, quote unquote, abrogated the motor verse after they were naming the kind of woman to marry and blah blah blah. And I am saying it still remains one of the greatest debate among scholars in Islam. And even in Sunni books, I was saying some references so yourself will read, and if you want to make a topic to open on it, fine. But it happened during the time of the Prophet, not once, not twice, not thrice. And till the Prophet died, it was still being done. The first Khalifa Abu Bakr's time, it was still being practiced. Who took it out? And it's not it's read in the Quran, but he said it the second Caliph Umar. And he was noted to have said this. He said, Muta'atani kana fi asr Rasul. وأنا أعاقب عليهما وأنا حرمتهما وأعاقب عليهما. Two mutu'ats he was referring to combining the umrah of the into the Hajj. It was a mutu'a, Ramato, and the mutu'a of women. So these two were during the time of the Prophet. But for me, I have forbidden them, and I will punish anyone who does it. There is not a single verse of the Quran that abrogated that verse. I'm yet to see it. And it's not a challenge, but if anybody can show me any ayah, any verse of the Quran that there was an ayah that abrogated that temporal marriage, I want to see it. But it's not there. The only thing I have is hadith that somebody stop it again. And the debate is stop it and they still brought it again. So what we want to say, or what I want to say, I said it, I quoted a Sharia, a law, that when an order comes from Allah to us, and there's nothing there to say this is what really he means. It's clearly, biblically on the surface, it suffices for obligation. They stay there, and some are still doing it. I will not condemn those that are doing it, but they want to live by the Quran. Those that are not doing it, they have their own reason. So this is what I want to speak. Thank you very much.
But Imam Turay, Muta is not controversial. Muta is not controversial in Sunni Islam.
It's highly controversial. I will give you Sunni texts. Just send me your emails. I will give you more than 20 books with references in Bukhari, in Muslim, in Tirmidhi, Ibn Majah, and Ahmad. You read so Sunni book. You read them. Not one, not 10, not 20 references. 50 references. Yeah.
Thank you. Well, I mean, we can go on and on and on, but I think the discussion is good. We have questions here, but we have to close.
Yeah. I think
this is a discussion that goes on and on.
You said 1 hour with 3 hours.
Yeah, with
No, no,
3 hours
Plus
now.
more.
no, it's
Show me
2
how that
hours. It's 2
30
hours
minutes.
14 minutes because
I think it was 9:30. You're closing.
yeah. So we are closing.
Oh,
I
okay.
told the imam. I said we have 8 minutes to close because we wanted to do it under 2 hours, but
Oh,
the Holy
okay.
Ghost were on him, so I couldn't stop him. Let's go around the room for closing. Let's get your closing.
Okay.
Let's start with Mr. Dukuly.
Well, I think these things are very important, and I want to say thank you to my sister Fatima, Sirleaf, and brother Jeneka Mohammed Turay. It was a very lively conversation, and I think this is important that we enlighten people about some of the misconceptions, some of the thing that especially our fellow Liberians do not understand. So I think then this is very commendable. It's something that we should do often, and some of the, as hard as they might be, we still need to address them.
Yeah, let's
You
start.
know, and I think it's only by addressing them that can we better understand them. So I want to say thank you for bringing this group of individuals together, and I'm very honored to be part of today's discussion.
Thank you. We'll do it again. If you can imagine, I've been standing throughout the conversation, right? I'm just trying to show my physique, my physicality. No, that's not true. I've been because I sit too long, so sometimes I have some nerves here rocking me. But we have to do the Liberian people's job. Fatima, your closing.
Well, I argue with John this today. He had me driving like a drunk woman. I'm telling you, I was coming from Delaware. I went to my goddaughter's first Holy Communion in a church today, and I was driving. I realized I was going to be here 7:15. I was running because he asked me, and he's a kind brother who has an open mind. He's invited me on the show before, but lately I just been in my own little world with this whole Liberia
With politics, you're
with
into
politics. I
politics.
jumped into politics the last couple of months, and I wanted to remove a president and succeeded. So we've been grateful. And then my president is in town, so I'm making arrangements to go and see him. I'm up and down, so I've been very busy. But this topic is dear to my heart. I mean, to be on this network with honorable men like the Honorable Dukuly and of course Alhaji Jeneka Mohammed Turay. I'm super honored to be here. To be a woman in Islam and to have the desires and the love and to be knowledgeable of your religion is something that amazes me. And every time I'm called to the duty to talk about Islam, I remember this one verse in Surah Al-Rahman that said, Fabiyala ikadzibuma tukadziban. Which of the favors of your Lord would you deny? There is none that our God has given us for us to sit and deny. I mean, I never, like, most times when I come to these shows, I look at the audience, and I watch the viewers and most of the things that they're saying, because you learn a lot from them. It's never personal for me, but Islam is actually personal for me because it's a complete way of life. My father only told me one thing in this world. Before he passed away, I asked him, I said, Daddy, what do you want for me to do? He said, I want you to have a personal relationship with Allah. That's all I want you to do for me. If you don't give me anything, you don't do anything for me, have a personal relationship with Allah. And having a personal relationship with Allah has never, ever left me. It's never let me down. And so I'm grounded by that. And I'm thankful that Jah even remembered me to call me today. This last minute, I mean, I know he told you ever since, but me, that this morning he called me, he woke me from my sleep and told me he wanted me on this network. But I could never refuse him because he has a kind heart. And even though he's asking questions that were making me laugh, but the fact is that he wants to know. And like Islam said, knowledge is from the cradle to the grave. So I'm grateful to be here. I thank the audience for watching. And now I'm going to make a duty to be watching and focus on Liberia because Jai is here. I never knew he was still on. I'm sorry. So I'm going to find time to be watching. But thank you. I'm honored to be here. I'm really, really honored. Thank you guys so much. Imam, thank you. Mr. Dukuly, I'm super honored you are my uncle, though, because the Dukulys are my uncle. The Turays are my uncle from my mother's side as well. So I thank you.
The same here too.
Thank you. And
I think
Fatima got a beautiful voice.
Dennis have issues with all of that.
Fatima, thank you for that song. You know, that's beautiful.
And that song, that's a reading of one of the verses.
How they call that?
And that song that is
Surah Rahman.
Surah Rahman. That's the verse. Which of the favors of your Lord would you deny? You know, so
Amen.
I just
Imam Turay, you got the last word.
I want to first and foremost take this time to be grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and be grateful to you, the host from the Focus on Liberia, for the kind of exchange of knowledge in Christianity and Islam. I hope you bring back the traditional people and other religions as well. By the grace of God, I'm always willing to come and share the little one that I've learned and I'm still learning about Islam. Today's topic, the right of women and responsibility in Islam, is a very, very important one. And we maintain the honor, respectability, and right that are given to Muslim women in Islam. You hardly find it in some other religion. Amongst the many rights I would like to close on is they maintain their name according to the Quran. If I marry someone, if that person is Kamara, Islam says they should keep their name Kamara. You find it just only in Islam. If they want to change it, it is a right. But the Quran says, "Udu'uhum li'abaihinna hu aqsatu indallah." Call them by the names of their father. That is best to Allah. So that is one of the greatest rights. If we could even stop there, it's an honor for them to change their name. So women, as we maintain, they have right in Islam, access rights. Unfortunately, we've been covering them with tradition. And with the kind of discussion, inshallah, people will get to know them. And those that are practicing, they will try to live it. And Islam will be the way it was said, and we can go back to the practice the way it's supposed to be. I want to thank my uncle. The Dukulys are also my uncle. Sir Dukuly, thank you very much. And my sister Fatima.
I told you, I said Dennis have problem with all of that.
So to our sister Fatima, thank you very much. And thank you, Mr. Dennis Jah, for hosting us.
yes.
It's always a pleasure to be with you to do our work. This is a form of jihad. Thank you very much. And assalamu alaikum for our listeners. Peace be with all of us.
And definitely we'll get you back. But before we get to Islam again, we're going to talk to someone who is adherent to traditional African beliefs. Here I focus on Liberia. We educate, we elevate, and promote all things Liberia. So thank you so much for coming. We'll do this again. What? I really appreciate it. You know, I called Fatima this morning because yesterday I advertised the show. They say, "How dare you have a show about the roles and rights of women and you don't have a woman?" I say, "Yes." You know, it's always good to accept when you err, right? So yes. I say I will make every effort, and so I look in my dictionary. I look at my records, and Fatima came. I was able to reach out to her. So when I advertised the show, somebody said, "But does you have an imam? Does Fatima is she a scholar in Islamic studies?" I said, "She is," because one of the things we're trying to do here is there are certain notions about Islam, right? So the women are supposed to. So there is an educated woman. She's in the corporate America. She's on television, and she's a Muslim. So we want to hear her perspective. And so thank you again, Fatima, for coming. I'm not trying to. I got 10 sisters, so I'm kind of a little biased when it comes to women. They raised me, you know. All right, well, thank you again.
Dennis is full of it.
We want to thank our viewers for watching, even those who will watch later. We never close a broadcast without playing the song that says, "We are all Liberians, whether you are Muslim, you're Christian, you don't believe anything, we are all Liberians." Have a good night and God bless you.
We are Liberians. Liberia is our home. Liberian people.
me love you